What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Fantasy Flex podcast from the Action Network and Fantasy Labs. I'm your host, Chris Raybon. NFL Week 10 is here. The trade deadline is here. We got player projections for you. As always, I'll be joined momentarily by one of the most accurate rankers in the game, the odds maker, Sean Koerner. But before we do that, quick reminder, all of our fantasy football content is available right now over on fantasylabs.com. Fantasy Labs NFL includes in-season rankings, waiver wire and DFS tips, and much more. Be sure to use code FLEX20, that's FLEX20, for $20 off at fantasylabs.com/flex. Koerner, what's going on? As we're recording this, the trade deadline is kind of unfolding. Who's the guy you're most looking for to get traded, or you most want to get traded that hasn't been moved yet?
Well, I think Breece Hall is the one that wants to get traded the most right now. That's what reports we're getting. Looks like the Jets are asking for a third-round pick, but he's out here tweeting question marks and wanting to get traded. So maybe they'll cave for like a fourth-round pick or something. But I'd like to see him get traded, shake things up. I was saying I think like the Texans would make sense, but there's a lot of teams that don't need a running back that are in contention. So we'll see. But that would open things up for Isaiah Davis. But the trades that I want to have happen are the ones I'm not even expecting. I want chaos. So just Rashid Shaheed and Jacoby Myers hasn't been enough for me. But is there anybody you're looking to be on the move, or what are you looking out for?
I think I would love to see like a blockbuster, to your point, like unexpectedly, like maybe like an AJ Brown or something like that. Or another just crazy Cowboys move. They seem to be always, wheeling and dealing. And the Packers, too. I think the Packers are in an interesting spot because they were aggressive this offseason and made that, Micah Parsons deal. But I feel like they could still add another piece. And I would just like to see them kind of, out of left field, be aggressive here. Just because, especially with losing Tucker Kraft, maybe add like offensive player, maybe add a guy like a Breece Hall or something like that. But yeah, I would like to see a team just kind of add somebody they don't even really need, like AJ Brown to the Seahawks or something like that.
Oh no,
would be fun.
Yeah, well, that'd be fun, right. But that would suck for his value and JSN's. I guess I don't know. I don't think anything could hurt JSN's value at this point.
And I would kind of like to see Alvin Kamara traded, just because I don't know what this would that be Taysom Hill backfield now? Like what would they do?
Yeah, that'd make it interesting for sure.
Okay. Cardio King, week 9. There not only were there some Cardio Kings, but there were guys with 0 catches as well who did get targeted. So a lot to unpack, but who are our official Cardio Kings for tight end, wide receiver, and overall?
Yeah, so tight end wasn't interesting. It was 2 guys. Jack Westover of the Patriots. Is he like a fullback hybrid?
He's a fullback now, I think, right?
Yeah.
He's playing more like that H-back-ish role.
Yeah, so it's Johnny Munt then with 13 routes, 0 targets. I think I saw him like in pain on the ground. I don't know if he left the game, but I think he got injured during the game. But he had 13 routes, 0 targets. Nothing to write home about there. But the Cardio King of week 9 was Chris Moore of the Commanders with 21 routes. Didn't see a single target, which he is the type of guy that would definitely be in the running for Cardio King, right?
Yeah, I actually have him 28 routes.
So I got next gen stats. I didn't update the PFF, so 7 more routes without a target. Oh man, 28. That's pretty bad.
And there were some other interesting ones. Kamani Vidal at right. I know we don't do running backs because they're not really running cardio out there, but 24 routes, no targets. Jordan Whittington, 19 routes, no targets. Yep. Kyron, 18 routes, no targets. Zay Jones, 18 routes, no targets. So yeah, it was a very interesting week. Kind of saw it spike back up after, I think, a down one where, most people were getting targeted. And then we still have all the guys that didn't really make any catches, namely Rome Odunze. So just
my guy,
odd week.
And my guy Isaac Tesla, 2 routes. So not even Cardio King, just like
better than Dash.
Just a brief moment of, sweat. Probably didn't break a sweat. in the game. But yeah, this is Khalif Raymond's world. We're just living in it, I guess.
And so, yeah, Tisla had 2 routes. Ray McLeod had 92% route rate. Didn't even return kicks. Like just came right in. The number 3. I know Bo Collins, I believe, did go down early in that game, but still pretty wacky week overall. But let's get into quarterback, and let's start with your top 5 for week 10, Koerner. We got.
I got Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert, Drake May, and Baker Mayfield.
I got Allen, Jackson, May, Daniel Jones, and Jalen Hurts. Still rolling with the scramblers, but yeah, being down on Herbert definitely was not a good call last week. I had a couple of those where it was just luckily I ended up higher on Kincaid than I thought I would, but man, some of those like early in the week calls were just terrible by me.
I had some good calls, but I was down on Brock Bowers. He was my tight end 9, where you're still playing Brock Bowers, so hopefully you didn't sit him based on that. And he had like the best PPR game of the past 20 years or something this week, so that was fun having that happen.
Yeah, like I said, just a wacky week in some instances. But we are on to week 10, and let's start with guys you're high on at the quarterback position.
Yeah, so I'm high on Matthew Stafford. He's my QB 11 this week, and I actually talked about his passing touchdown upside with Devontae Adams in the fold back, if you remember, on the favorites, and I actually gave out his over 22.5 passing touchdowns that day. I bet it, I posted it, and then I think the pod went up 2 weeks later, so it was up to 23.5 passing touchdowns.
And he went over 3 weeks later.
Yeah, like he's almost at it right now. I think he's up to 20 now, with 5 going to Devontae the last 2 games, and I think that's kind of why I'm high on him. It's just he's become more stable, just in terms of passing touchdown production, which is huge for a guy that he offers literally 0 rushing upside. He is like the Mall Santa. So that's needed. He needs to be projected to throw about 2 touchdowns to be in my top 12. And this week he has a decent matchup against San Francisco, who's been shaky against quarterbacks recently, and they've lost their 2 best players on defense, Nick Bosa and Fred Warner, for the season. And Bryce Huff's been dealing with a hamstring injury. If he's out again, this should be a pretty clean pocket for Stafford. And we'll have to monitor Puka's rib injury. It seems like this guy keeps getting hurt, and he puts up top 5 numbers in half the game when he leaves the game due to injury. So hopefully Puka's fine. That'll obviously impact my final ranking for Stafford, but assuming he's good to go, Stafford's once again inside my top 12 this week.
Yeah, Michael Williams also out for the Niners.
Oh, that's right.
So
yep.
Yeah, just getting decimated on defense. Divisional game, but the Niners usually do have the Rams number, but I still think it's a good spot for Stafford. I mean, the Rams are just rolling, and they're healthy for the most part. It's hard not to like them at this point. And I think what also helps Stafford is they're playing more tight ends, in the red zone and whatnot. And that, remember the key struggle with him in throwing touchdowns was that they would get in the red zone and just all types of disasters. So now you got all these big bodied guys. I think Higbee caught a touchdown last week. You don't have to just hand it to Kyron and hope he gets in. You can throw it to Kyron. I think he threw 2 to him in the last Niner matchup, and you got all these tight ends. So Stafford trending up. The Rams, low key. Lions look a little weaker. Eagles look a little weaker. Rams, Seahawks. Maybe that's the NFC Championship game matchup. That would be fun. All right. I am high on Jackson Dart this week. I mean, could say the same for Caleb Williams. Just love this matchup. Giants and Bears, but Dart is a guy who just keeps on producing, and he doesn't really have a great stable of pass catchers. You mentioned he's relying on guys like Theo Johnson. Slayton's been out. Ray McLeod ran a route on 90+% of the dropbacks last week. Will Jordan Humphrey did the same 2 week, for a couple of weeks before that. And yet this dude Dart just keeps balling. He keeps rushing. Threw a touchdown to Gunnar Olszewski, which is not Not easy to do. I think our guy Nick Giffen was on that, so shouts to him. And of course, our guy Stuckey was on the Dart rushing touchdown. So I just really think Dart, proving what we kind of talked about before the season, that he could be a league winner whenever he gets this role. And so far, that's kind of what's been happening. And a 25 plus point fantasy game last week. Now he's facing off against a defense that let a banged up Joe Flacco just throw all over it. And it's another potential shootout in this spot. So, and these are like outdoor games that the Bears are having, these high scoring games. So that bodes well. So yeah, like Dart this week, he's close to being in my top 5. Honestly, like if I kind of adjust Hurts or Herbert or anybody just a tiny bit, Dart's quarterback 5. So love him this week. All right, who are you low on at quarterback?
Yeah, Jackson Dart's my QB6. I'd say you should tweak him up a little bit and move Jalen Hurts down. I'm down on Jalen Hurts this week. I had to do a double take when I saw he's my QB12 to open the week, and then I looked into it a little bit. Obviously this is a tougher matchup against the Packers, but more importantly, the Eagles' implied team total right now is just 21 points, which has to be the lowest implied team total for them in a while. So both his passing and rushing touchdown upside is lowered here, and he's just not using his legs much outside of the tush push. He's averages 7 yards rushing per game over the last 4, which is absolutely crazy to see. I would imagine coming out of the bye, he's going to start using his legs a bit more, and I wouldn't overlook like when you look at the Packers, the rushing production they've allowed to quarterbacks, they've faced like 5 or 6 Mall Santas, so don't look into that too much. So I do expect them to rush for 20 plus yards, but definitely fewer rushing yards than we're typically seeing from him, with less touchdown upside. So just with all that, and there's a lot of QBs I like this week, like Daniel Jones, Caleb Williams, Stafford, that I have over him. So Hurts is all the way down to QB12 for me. Has to be the lowest rank I've had for him in quite some time.
Yeah, he's a really tough projection because, on the one hand, he's, started out the year very shaky. But then these last few games, I've been low on him, and he's kind of just balled out. And now that, like that, I thought the game against Minnesota was impressive. Yeah. I thought, the game against the Giants obviously had the tush push thing, but still threw the ball really well in that one. And out of the bye, the Eagles are always dangerous, I think, because you saw them even make some tweaks on that long rest after the Thursday game against the Giants. So it's kind of a weird situation, but at the same time, I think the reason the Packers are still kind of the favorite here is they play a ton of zone, so they're always going to have eyes on Hurts, and Hurts tends to struggle against those types of coverages that the Packers play. Now, the bye could complicate it, but I think that's why you're seeing the market still kind of behind Green Bay here, is because like this is just a tough matchup for it, or has been a tough matchup for Hurts. But again, just a really tough projection. But I don't blame him. He's not a bona fide, I would say, like top 5 guy like he usually is. Like he could definitely fall behind Dart for me as well. Yeah. All right, I'm on the quarterback on the opposite side of that matchup, Jordan Love. He is number one. The reason we don't like him in this range now is there's just other quarterbacks that have higher floors. Now, Love has a super high ceiling. He throws the ball down the field. He's very talented, usually very efficient, but the consistency has been a little bit lacking. And, when you're talking about like a fringe QB1 option, like you don't want a guy who's just going to have a game like he had last week. Now, granted, Tucker Kraft got hurt, but still, this was a Panther defense that gave up 40 points to the Bills the week before. So it shouldn't have been that much of a struggle. We've seen Love go completely cold against good defenses like the Browns. We've seen the Packers struggle for 2-3 quarters against their opponents the last few weeks. So there's just some red flags here with Love. I think he's more of, like DFS play, high upside guy, but the floor, especially without Kraft, who's just been creating some touchdowns himself with the yards after catch. I'm a little bit worried, and the receivers aren't fully healthy either. You had Golden go down, Wicks, who knows how healthy he is. Yes, he got Watson back, but he's always a twitch away from going back down. So yeah, Love. I'm gonna kind of be cautious with him this week, especially against the Eagles coming out of the bye. Fangio defense usually picks it up around this time of year when the players can kind of learn the scheme a little bit better. So just I think the arrow's pointing down on Jordan Love at the moment. Quarterback prop, man. Yeah, there's Hurts is an interesting one. Let's go. Ooh, yeah. Now I think I want to do. Yeah, I'm gonna do Caleb Williams and Jackson Dart combined passing plus rushing yards. Hold on, I just got to make this projection.
My two favorite quarterbacks. I can't believe you're doing this to me.
Yeah, it's just a really fascinating matchup because, just the high scoring games both of these teams have had, and another total above 50. So, going to be an interesting spot just to see how high the ceiling is. So let's go with, and then Caleb. I should add scrimmage yards, right? Because Caleb's out here catching multiple.
Two catches for 22 yards and the tutty.
We can go scrimmage yards, but it's really passing and passing and rushing. Don't expect Caleb to catch passes every game. Let's go with 490.5.
Oh, both of them combined, so not facing each other. So both of them combined.
Yeah,
490.5. I'll go under. But there's so much upside. I could totally see that. And when you're combining everything, you're capturing more of a ceiling, so it's not a median. So yeah, not a bad line. That's going to be a fun one. I would hope books offer that. But yeah, I'll go under.
Yeah, I think I probably have it around 500 if unless there's weather. I haven't looked too much into it, but yeah, I kind of like this matchup. I mean, the Bears are banged up on defense. Giants are too, and these guys they're just gonna run when they don't. If nothing's there. So yeah, a lot of upside. Maybe a good ladder situation, or like you said, if there's some props for some combined.
My path for this under hitting is Kyle Monangai just dominating on the ground again.
Fair,
really, that's
fair.
my path. That's my path here.
Very fair, but that could just mean like another like 52 to 48, 47, 42, whatever the heck it was last
right
game. But yeah, I definitely wanted you on the under, so can't knock it.
Mission accomplished.
Running back top 5 week 10.
Christian McCaffrey, Bijan Robinson, Jonathan Taylor, Devon Achane, and James Cook.
Got the same 5 guys, a little bit of a different order. Taylor, McCaffrey, Achane, Bijan, and Cook. I just think Bijan and Cook are still not as consistent as I want them to be. Like, Cook can have the most amazing game in the history of the NFL, and then every once in a while he'll drop like a 6-carry, 23-yard, 4-catch, 8-yard type of situation with no touchdowns. And we saw the floor for Bijan as well. I hope that was just having to do with Drake London being out, but this Falcons team is a little tough to predict. So still rolling with my guy HN with Gordon potentially banged up, because I don't think they want to give Wright any work, judging by the fact that they healthy scratched him. So see how that unfolds. But who are you high on, Koerner, for week 10 at running back?
Yeah, I'm actually high on Aaron Jones, despite him opening up the week, like uncertain if he's going to even play this week with the shoulder injury. But the current diagnosis is encouraging. It seems like he's going to play through it. But more importantly, I think people just might overlook him because of the questionable tag, and also just his full game usage, considering he was the clear lead back. And then he left like early in the second quarter. So just think of his stat line in that context. he was about to just have a massive game. He had like 79 rushing yards, a couple catches for 20 yards. And that was like just the first quarter. So clearly they just want to use him as much as possible. He looks great. And Jordan Mason's like the clear backup now. So if Jones is healthy and playing this week, do not be shocked if he's the lead back again, if he could stay healthy through the game. And this is a spot, against the Ravens where, it could be more involved in the passing game. It just sets up better for Aaron Jones in general with a potential trailing game script. So, yeah, he opens up the week as my RB20 if he does suit up. But we have a week to figure that out. And the other guy, the guy I'm high on is Woody Marks. We'll have to see if Brees Hall gets traded to the Texans. I'm no longer high on Woody Marks, but he was dealing with a calf injury last week. He left the game due to it for a bit, but his underlying usage still ended up slightly better than Nick Chubb. And I think it's likely C.J. Stroud will sit this week. He's in the concussion protocol. I typically just consider guys doubtful once they go in the concussion protocol. So. Davis Mills under center, I think they're going to just want to lean on the running backs more. Marks specifically in the passing game. You could see, Mills checking it down to Marks way more than Stroud would. So I think he's, a high-end RB3 flex option this week that people, might not want to trust. But I think this week sets up better for him. And he's coming off, that brutal game against the Broncos, whereas the Jaguars a little bit of a better spot. But I think just the Texans game plan this week might to be leaning on both backs this week, maybe Marks more so. But yeah, he's sort of a high-end RB3 flex option for me to open the week.
Are you expecting, for both of those guys, are you expecting them to end the week with no injury tag or like a questionable heading into Sunday?
Well, Mark should be totally fine. I don't think he's on the injury report. Aaron Jones, I have no idea. No clue. He seems right now more probable. So getting ahead of that, if you have him on your team and he's ruled out, it's very simple. You put him on your bench. But if he's training positive and he's playing, I could see people kind of using his questionable tag all week and looking at his final box score, like why the hell did he only have 6 carries or whatever, as like a negative. But just know that first quarter when he was healthy, he was like the clear lead back. So I'll probably be more confident than consensus on him by the end of the week if he's healthy. But someone we have to monitor because he did injure his shoulder.
Yeah, I am high on Kyle Menandre. I think regardless of what happens with Swift, Swift comes back, I still think Menandre is going to get the early down usage. I mean, he dominated that in this one. We'll see if, I don't think they're that interested in using the other guys too much. I know Britton Brown ended up getting a touchdown, but I think that will be kind of the distribution on early downs. Like I think it'll be, Menandre first up, and then on passing downs, definitely Swift, and he'll probably, spell him as well. But I think he played too well to not, continue to roll with that and kind of make it, no worse than a 50-50 committee, but more likely Menandre probably gets the lead in rushing work from here on out. And we saw him kind of creeping up on Swift even before we knew Swift was going to be ruled out. Every week, Swift's snap share was getting closer and closer to Menandre. So I think this is still a buy spot. Again, this matchup against the Giants, one of the worst run defenses in the league all season long. It's, even if Swift is back and they're saying, okay, he's the starter, like I would still be very interested in the number 2 running back on whoever's facing the Giants with a total of, what is it, over 50 in this spot. So like him, and I think Devin Singletary as well, just with the amount of snaps that he played and the fact that every week now, the Giants, when they've had an injured running back, they haven't had a third one active. So I'm guessing they're going to say, okay, Olszewski or McLeod, or I don't know, one of those guys probably would just be the emergency running back. Hyatt, I don't know, but that's how they've been playing it so far. Eric Gray, I haven't heard anything about him. I know he's eligible to be activated, but Tracy had 25 snaps last week. Singletary 32. And I thought Singletary played better. So, and then you mentioned on the waivers pod that Daboll has history with Singletary. So this could be a 50-50 split going forward. You know, we've seen them bench we've seen them bench Tyrone Tracy in the past for fumbling issues, benched him at the goal line. I think I talked about that last week in the past. So I think Tracy does have a lower floor, and that just benefits Singletary, who's pretty sneaky. Not quite in that Manon guy range if Swift were to come back, but still intriguing this week given the matchup. All right. Guys are low on at running back.
I'm low on Kamani Vidal, who flopped in what should have been a smash spot against the Titans. Jarrett Patterson, of all people, outplayed him. Ended up having the hot hand, unfortunately. I would imagine Vidal gets the first crack again this week against the Steelers and bounces back, but his floor is certainly lower now since it could be a hot hand approach again where someone like Patterson ends up out snapping, out touching him. So he's more of a low end RB2 after being a solid RB1 option, at least on paper, last week. And, Hampton could be returning soon, so the window of Vidal's value could be closing soon. So that was just a really disappointing week from him last week against the Titans. And then Travion Henderson, maybe one of the most polarizing running backs in fantasy football right now, is coming off another solid game. Again, I think this guy's the most talented back the Patriots have right now. But as you mentioned, Terrell Jennings mixed in a little bit more than we were hoping for. He was the one that got the touchdown. We're just going to have to get used to that. And, last week was certainly fueled by Ramondre Stevenson being out. I'm projecting him to return this week, which is going to make things murkier. But if Stevenson's out, I'd still move Travion up to like a low-end RB2. But it's still disappointing that even with, Gibson on IR and Stevenson out, he still has to compete with someone like Terrell Jennings, of all people. So, his upside's kind of capped, unfortunately, because of it. But again, he's going to have a much lower floor if Stevenson does return this week. I think he'd be like a solid. He'd be like a solid RB3 flex option. But just until we see the overall usage go up, it's going to be tough to really treat him like an RB2 option. But yeah, his ECR is RB18 to open the week. I just think that seems too high.
Yeah, that's like I guess that would be assuming that Ramondre's definitely out, because I think the Patriots, they're taking that approach similar to, the Bills, I guess you could say. Outside of Cook, but it's just everybody eats. Their top wide receiver usually tops out around 75% route rate. They're platooning at running backs even when they don't have their number one. The tight end, they're playing two tight ends. So yeah, I think Henderson's just going to be very inconsistent going forward. That may be the case for a guy like J.K. Dobbins as well. We've seen his snap rate kind of trend down. Another team that mixes in three running backs, but that might not come back to bite him too much. Some of these committee situations where, the guy that's trending down in the committee might not actually get hurt too much this week. Like Dobbins could still be fine going up against the Raiders is a big favorite. Swift, if he comes back against the Giants, should still be fine. You have who else? There's another one. Oh yeah, and Tracy against the Bears. So there's some situations that I don't completely hate, but the guy I'm low on is Alvin Kamara. He's still like just a borderline kind of fringe top 25 guy. I have him outside the top 30. I just think that his touchdown upside is so capped in this offense, because even though he's not playing with a guy like, who was it, Jamal Williams a couple years ago, had all those touchdowns. Yeah. Still have the threat of Taysom Hill looming. This team is getting worse and worse. They already, were sellers. And he said that if he gets traded somewhere else, like, who knows what his motivation is going to be to suit up or to play a lot of snaps. So I just think that, maybe you see an uptick if he doesn't get traded this week. But we've seen Neal mix in. They have nothing to lose by looking at him, and Kamara just, doesn't look as great over these last few weeks. And another low total against the outdoors against the Panther defense that I think is a lot better than expected in a divisional game. Just do not love it for Kamara. The receiving usage just hasn't been the same for him Should be higher in this game just because the Panthers play a ton of zone, but they, Evero is a pretty good coordinator, so you can't always rely on those, man zone numbers as a be all end all because the coordinators kind of know that too, and they're very interested in switching up tendency and whatnot. So still going to be low on Kamara just because I don't really have his touchdown upside there, just because of the team he's playing on. Kind of like you said with A.D. Mitchell and being on the Jets, there's just only so many passing yards to go around. It's the same thing on the Saints with rushing yards and touchdowns. Period. So yeah.
And you had mentioned, McCoy's on IR. Looks like Fuaga
that's big too.
Had an ankle injury, so he's out this week. So their offensive line's losing some key pieces as well.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, Shuck, who knows if he's? I mean, Rattler's playing well for a while, so who knows what Shuck can kind of trend down too. So it's just situation to avoid there. One other guy. Before we Bill. I think Bill is kind of trending down too, just because it seems like one of these other running backs on the Commanders has a good week every week, and the Lions could get a lead in this spot again. Like the Commanders' defense has just been so bad, so I'd be careful with him as well. But who you got for the running back prop?
Let's go with who's going to have more rushing yards this week: James Cook or Rico Dowdle. Both these guys are an absolute smash spots in terms of rushing production. So I'm going to set Cook as a slight favorite. I'll have him float 2.5 yards to Rico Dowdle. It probably won't matter. One or both these guys is going to go off, but who are you taking between Cook and Dowdle in rushing yards?
Yeah, I got to go Cook. I have him pretty significantly ahead just because of the explosiveness, the fact that Davis might be banged up, and Cook has just been at another level in terms of the explosive runs, but also his carry share this year has just way up after getting that contract. Whereas Dowdle, this is a spot where the Panthers could blow him out. Now, you could say that about the Bills too, but we've just seen, like, if the Panthers are blowing out the Saints, I think it's more likely that they give Hubbard burn. Whereas the Bills, we've kind of, known what to expect all year. And the fact that Davis could be banged up only helps Cook more. So yeah, Cook is just, he's like a 90-yard run waiting to happen. Dowdle is going to do it on volume a little bit more. So yeah, I'm gonna go Cook, even though he is the 2.5 yard favorite. I think I'd make him maybe more like a carry and a half at least favorite.
Yeah,
just because
that's fair. And he really not involved in the passing game anymore. What's one catch the last 4 games every week? I'm gonna fade James Cook's reception prop. And then it's like under 2.5 is minus 230. And I'm like, I'll pass. But at this point, I'd be shocked if he gets 2 catches. So he's just getting all of his production on the ground. So I think that this is the market. Obviously, he's going to thrive in this week against the Dolphins. But that's kind of been limiting his ceiling a little bit. It's just lack of involvement in the passing game.
It's interesting you say that because I was thinking the same thing about a guy like Ty Johnson, even on the Bills. It's just the entire running back room for Buffalo. It seems like there's been an emphasis on just going downfield more. And if you're going to throw not to wide receivers, just get it to the tight ends, because Ty Johnson only has 4 catches on the year. He's a guy, this was a guy that was catching like 80-yard touchdown passes over the top of the defense last year. Ray Davis has 3 catches and then Cook has 13. So just, that's 20 catches for running backs through 8 games combined for Buffalo, which is not a lot. Josh Allen he's just gonna take off, or he's just gonna launch it. Really, that's what he's doing. Wide receiver, week 10. We got top 5.
I got Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Drake London, Puka Nacua, and Emeka Ibuka.
Ooh, I love me some Ibuka, but I don't know how you don't make JSN number 1 at this point. Puka's banged up. Amon-Ra is just like he's great. We love him, but JSN has been otherworldly this year, like just completely otherworldly. So he's my number 1. Puka, Amon-Ra, Drake London, and Justin Jefferson in the top 5, hanging by a thread. I could see Ibuka maybe taking over for him, but gonna roll with Jefferson. I was kind of pleasantly surprised by what I saw from McCarthy, and I think there's still meat on the bone. Could be a high scoring game at home against the Ravens. Who
Yeah,
are
I'm
you
jealous.
higher at wide
Well, I
receiver?
have JSN 0.1 below Amon-Ra. I think I'm going to have to tweak that. I have Cooper Kupp returning, and I have Shaheed running a 65% routes run rate. So
Doesn't
a
matter.
lot of suppression going on to JSN that's probably going to get lifted once we get clarity. So he's my number one in my heart. So I'll join you. He's my number one to open the week too. Screw it.
Well, yeah, I was gonna ask. I might save it for the prop though, but
Oh.
I have a
Oh.
I have a 3-digit receiving projection for JSN right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's the point we're at in the season where it's just
you can make that
got half
the
the
prop
year.
at the end. That's pretty spicy.
Yeah, I'm sure the market will open a little lower, but can't get there. Who are you high on?
Yeah, I'm high on Romeo Dobbs this week, as seemed like every week now, but he just continues to smash. 7 catches, 91 yards last week. But with, Tucker Kraft now out for the season, obviously that's a huge boost to someone like Luke Musgrave. But I think, Dobbs is going to get a boost too because he should see even more targets. But especially in the red zone, it's really him and Kraft are kind of Love's go-to guys in the red zone. So with Kraft, out, I think Dobbs' touchdown upside goes up. Matthew Golden's banged up. Dontavian Wicks is banged up. I don't think Jaden Reed's going to return this week. Maybe, in the next few weeks. But as of now, I have Dobbs, even in a, tougher matchup on paper against the Eagles. I have him like a high-end wide receiver 2 right now, just given his upside. And he's been providing a pretty high floor, all things considered. So I'm high on Dobbs right now. I already mentioned him on the waiver pod, but I'm high on Trey Tucker this week. Obviously gets a huge boost with Jacoby Myers traded away. And this is a tough matchup against the Broncos. We'll have to see if Patrick Surtain is able to return this week. I think the fact that it's the short week, it's Thursday Night Football, maybe lowers the chances that Surtain can return, but that'll obviously impact my final projection for Tucker. But we've seen over the last 2 seasons, Tucker's generally better against man coverage. So this could be a spot for him to, post high-end wide receiver 3 numbers, even in a tough matchup against the Broncos. But certainly long-term, I think Tucker's going to provide that spike week potential he's always had, but just a higher floor now with Myers gone and more, 2 wide receiver sets where he's going to be out there pretty much every single drop back. So I think his floor is in a much higher space right now, which certainly helps someone like him.
Yeah, and I was under the understanding that Surtain was going to miss multiple weeks, so he probably misses this one on a short week. I think there was some question about whether they would put him on IR, and they decided against it. So he could be. I think the most realistic, he's probably potentially back the week after this one. Yeah, that's what it seems like. So I am high on Wan'Dale Robinson. He's kind of just inside the top 30 in ECR, but I think he's closer to top 20 for me. And the reason is, again, I just love everything about this Giant Bear matchup. I could see it going very similarly to the Bengals Bears matchup a week ago. You have 2 defenses that are struggling, and Wan'Dale, every snap he's out there pretty much, 95% plus route rate since Neighbors went down week in, week out. So he's not just playing in the slot. He's also getting some deeper targets, but the volume has kind of returned. There was a couple of games right after Neighbors went down where it seemed like maybe he was getting too much attention, and there were too many low percentage throws to him, and he kind of had some duds. But now we've seen him kind of return to that high volume guy in the Giants offense. And I mean, Darius Slayton, Theo Johnson, Tyron Tracy, Devin Singletary, those are your kind of top. That's your top competition for routes. Ray McLeod, Bellinger if he's back. It's just this. Like, I think Robinson has kind of some unrealized upside where he could put up like a 10 catch, 150 yard type of game, and it's not really being priced into the market. Actually, no. I said top 20. Rondale is my wide receiver 12 right now. I misspoke. Yeah, he's my wide receiver 12 heading into the week. So we'll see. Usually we make some adjustments to other wide receivers that maybe gets knocked down to like 15 or so. But yeah, he's pretty entrenched as a mid-range wide receiver 2 at worst, but with wide receiver 1 upside, I think this week, especially given just the upheaval at the position and some injuries and whatnot. So yeah, love Wandale this week. Who are you low on at wide receiver?
I'm low on Nico Collins this week against the Jaguars. ECR opened him up at wide receiver 8, which is where I normally have him. But I think if Stroud ends up sitting this week, which I think he will, because he's in the concussion protocol, I have Nico more of like a wide receiver 20 in my ranks, just because Davis Mills probably going to be less willing to throw it to him downfield. Probably just going to have a much more conservative game plan this week. Knowing that Stroud's going to miss. So, I have Nico closer to wide receiver 20, but, he still had a solid 7-catch, 75-yard game. I think Mills was responsible for like 5 of those catches and about like 60 yards. So I'll have to like double check that, dive into that a little bit. But, Nico will probably settle in as more of a mid-range wide receiver 2 for me than like a solid top 10 option like ECR is treating him if Stroud's out. I just think they're going to kind of change the game plan a bit. And he's probably going to be more willing to check it down. They'll probably be a little bit more run heavy. They'll adjust probably with Stroud being out. So Nico Collins, someone, you're still playing him, but I would temper expectations just a little bit this week.
Yeah, and we don't have the angle with Stroud is he's always much more efficient at home, and now you lose him. I got to look into Davis Mills' number. I don't really remember him ever being too efficient anywhere. But yeah, definitely a downgrade compared to Stroud. You have a low total. Guys are banged up. Nico healthy, but always wonder if those they went back to their vets last week. But at some point, I would think like Hutchinson maybe gets less playing time, and Kirk is back, so that could kind of eat into Nico's target share just a tiny bit as well. I'm low on Keenan Allen. I think it was a guy we kind of talked about, like, okay, who's going to be if Quentin comes back and bounces back, who's going to be the guy that takes a back seat? And my money was on Allen, and it's still on Allen. Just looking at the recent usage trends, I've noticed they're starting to want to get rookie Trey Harris a little bit more involved, and they are limiting Allen snaps a little bit more in spots than they have early in the season. Last week, Allen was at a 55% route rate, and then Harris was at 35%. The week before, Allen was at 48%, and Harris was at 33%. And we also saw a couple weeks before that, it was another like 65-35 type of situation. Now, for the year, Allen's averaging a 75% route rate. So, 3 of the last 5, he's been 65 or lower. The last 2, he's been 55 or lower. So that signals kind of a downward trend. And he is a veteran, was a guy that was sitting on his couch at the start of the season. Yeah. And your guy Gadsden has emerged and is running routes on 90% of Herbert's dropbacks. Now, essentially, he has taken the Keenan Allen role in that middle of the field, underneath kind of guy, but can be explosive too if you ask it of him. So yeah, I think Allen is trending down. I would try to sell him, honestly, if you still can trade in your league, because I just see the Chargers, the writing's on the wall with how well Gadsden is playing. You still got McConkey and Johnson, who are much younger, and we're always going to be a big part of this offense. And Allen is my wide receiver 39, so I'm minus 14 from consensus already, and that's giving him 60% route rate, so a little higher than the last 2 weeks too. So there's a chance he stays at that suppressed number, and it's just going to be harder for him because he's not an automatic touchdown guy either. There's a lot of competition, especially with Gadsden, for touchdowns. Scott Matlock catching them and shit. Okay, wide receiver prop, that's on me. So many options just with all the weirdness from last week. I think I want to go with, let's try to combine something again. So let's go Roma Dunze plus Cortland Sutton receiving yards. Sutton had that 30-yard catch for touchdown, which is his only catch, and Dunze no catches on 3 targets. So I should add Jerry Jeudy into this, but let's go because it kind of feels like a squeaky wheel situation anytime guys number one receivers have bad games like that. But Dunze has been trending down. Sutton's just a little, kind of hit or miss with Knicks, but positive games. So let's go with 110.5 combined for Odunze and Cortland Sutton.
I have 109.5. And yeah, that's a great number because I think when you have both receivers, you kind of just combine them. You're not dealing with a median situation, so it's more of a true average. So yeah, that's a great number. I'm surprised, like, for being so high on Roma Dunze, I have so many Odunze shares. I've been pretty low on him recently. I'm -8 against ECR. It's so weird that now I'm like the Dunze hater. But yeah, he's still elite. I think he's a great receiver, but just there's so many mouths to feed in this offense, and they've been a little bit more run heavy. Luther Burden could be back this week, so that kind of takes a hit to his target share. And we talked about Parker Washington last week, but also Olamide Zaccheaus is quietly having a great season. So he's out there, averaging a 20% target rate. So it's just like all these factors kind of makes it tough for Odunze to see like a big target share as being like a number one receiver. So I still like his upside. I like his touchdown upside. But like one of these guys might be prone to bust or not go off this week. So I'll take the under, but that's a great line. I'm 1 yard lower than you, so not much.
Yeah, it's if you look at Odunze's numbers in totality, he looks a little more like a touchdown or bust guy than it's like he had 5 touchdowns over the first 4 games and then none over the past 4, and in that span he's had 3 games with 2 or fewer catches and 32 or fewer yards, and then one with 7 for 114. So he has that number one receiver upside still, but he's pretty much even with DJ Moore for me now. Like where do you have those two ranked?
Yeah, well, I have DJ Moore a little bit lower, but yeah, Dunze wide receiver 17. Again, I have Luther Burden returning this week, so that that's dinging my DJ Moore projection. But I had taken Dunze like under 4.5 receptions a couple weeks ago. He's kind of reminding me of like T. Higgins, where he's going to have some massive games. He's going to score touchdowns, but there's going to be some weeks where he had 2 catches for 33 yards, no touchdowns. Like that's unfortunately just they have so many mouths to feed. And if, Monongai's running wild, that eats into it. Caleb Williams might scramble more this week. Just there's a lot of paths for Odunze to hit his floor. So yeah, that's why he's all the way down to wide receiver 17 to me. But he's had like an evolving type of profile this year.
Yeah, and Colston Loveland, I mean, the more he plays, he has about a 3-4% target per route rate higher than Kmet, and probably even higher when Loveland is the starter too. So yeah, it's just a kind of one of those situations where he's probably going to be more touchdown or bust than we would like going forward. Kind of what he was last year, except he wasn't getting the touchdown.
Yeah, he wasn't catching downfield targets or touchdowns last year.
All right, let's close it out with tight end for week 10, top 5.
Oh boy, I got Trey McBride, George Kittle, Oronde Goatston II, Tyler Warren, and Brock Bowers.
Wait, so you're low on Bowers again? How do you have anything lower than like 3? I feel like it's got to, for me, it's McBride, Bowers, Gadsden, and then Kittle, Warren. But I think those top 3. I'm like scared to fade any of McBride, Bowers, and Gadsden at tight end right now.
I'm not fading Bowers. I think that's need to make a little tweak up since the Jacoby Myers trade. And I just really love Gadsden and Warren, so it's it's hard. I just think it's a solid top 5. I'd put it that way.
Yeah,
but yeah, Bowers probably end up little bit higher once I factor in more of like Jacoby Myers being gone. That's obviously going to help Bowers. So yeah, you're obviously
ECR
playing.
number 1.
He's ECR number
right
1.
now.
Yeah,
Yep.
that sounds about right.
I mean,
If,
tough matchup, but
If
who knows?
Kyler Murray comes back, Trey McBride will probably go down to like tight end 6 for me. But right now, he is popping in my touchdown projection. So you're gonna have to dial that back a bit if Kyler takes back over.
I mean, the thing to like about McBride, even with that gives him hope, is that Jacoby Brissett rushed for a touchdown, and McBride still got his. Now, granted, it was against the Cowboys, but
True.
I mean that's about as good news as possible. If you are hoping for more touchdowns from McBride. Who are you high on for Week 10 at tight end?
I'm high on Theo Johnson at tight end, and I mentioned this on the waiver pod. I think it's time to consider him, legit tight end 1 the rest of the way, just based on his underlying usage, because he's out there, 90% of, darts dropbacks. He's seen obviously a boost in target share since Malik Neighbors went down for the season. And, Wandale's the top target in the offense, but once they get to the red zone, Theo's clearly Dart's top target. He now has 5 touchdowns since Dart took over. And, we saw Ray McLeod see a ton of work. He got 1 target or something. I think Ray might eat into like Wandale's target share more than Theo, but I think either way, I think Wandale and Theo are kind of locked in as high floor options right now. And just the fact that Theo's available in so many leagues and he does offer low end tight end 1 value this week and going forward, I just think he's like a sneaky ad rest of the way. If you missed out on like a Gadsden or a Loveland, I think Loveland probably has more long-term upside, but I think Theo offers that high floor, stable type production the rest of the way.
Yeah, Ray McLeod, like the Giants just have to have a cardio king in there. Like that's just Brian Daboll's offense. Like he had Hyatt playing that role, and then Ray McLeod a 5 A dot, and he got targeted on 1 of 36 routes.
Did he catch that A dot?
Yeah, he did. He got. Did he catch it?
Let's see.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Okay, so hopefully we get Ray McLeod props this week. Over under half a yard.
Under, because I don't think he was meant to play as much as he did. I think it was due to Collins getting hurt. I think Collins would have probably played that amount of snaps. Like remember we saw Will Jordan Humphrey emerge and play like 100%. Like I think they had that role ticketed for Collins at this point because they're down on Hyatt and and McLeod just joined the team.
Yeah, I'm done.
It might be Olszewski this week.
Oh my god, I am done trying to figure out Giants receivers outside of Wandale. Wasn't Daboll's first year? It was like he had like 7 guys. Kenny Golladay was there, and then like David Sills the 5th was the man for like
who first. Was that? Hodgins.
Isaiah Hodgins. That's right. And then David Sills was out there. That's just
Sills, Hodgins, and our guy. Who's the guy in the slot? Richie James.
Oh my god! Yeah, I lost his bet by a hook. Oh yeah, I hated that season. Trying to project those guys.
Only the Giants' most successful season in like the last decade, but yeah. I'm high on. Seems like a trend here. The guy on the opposite side of this matchup, Colston Loveland, going up against the Giants, and again, I think even if Komet does make it back and beat that 9-day median, I think Loveland is in. Oh wait, no, Komet hurt his shoulder this time, or was it a concussion? Hold on, let me double check.
It
was a shoulder. This time,
I got it mixed. I have him doubtful this week, so I'm guessing it's the concussion. It was shoulder last week. I think he's in the concussion protocol. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So
doubtful.
Median of 9 days. Yep. Median of 9 days missed for that, and under the new protocol. That's we saw Burden miss last week. So I think Komet has a good shot to be out. And even if he's back, I think it's on pass downs going to be at least 2-1 in Loveland's favor, if not more. That's kind of how it was setting up early in the game before Komet left with injury, where he was on the field more of the rundowns, and we saw Loveland on more of the pass downs. And that tends to be like intentional. If you look at the numbers for different kind of combinations of platoons at positions, coaches are maybe a little too intentional sometimes with like their preferred like running back runner will always be on the field on run plays, and the preferred pass catcher will always be on the field on pass plays and whatnot. So I think going forward, Loveland should be a pretty safe bet to maintain his route rate in that normal tight end one rate, 70% plus going forward. So love him against the Giants this week in a game that should have a high total, and you could get a bonus of wait week. Maybe you get guys, maybe you get more injuries. We never know. Maybe Burden doesn't return as quick as we thought. And all three of the receivers, the starters, were on the injury report last week, so who knows how healthy they are. It was just a wild game against the Bengals, but we know Loveland was healthy because he ended it. So yeah, love him this week. No pun intended. Who are you low on at tight end?
I'm low on Dallas Goedert this week. I have him tight end 12 to open the week, and my rank, assumes AJ Brown returns this week and doesn't get traded, I guess. But similar to why I was also lower on Jalen Hurts is the Eagles' team total is only 21 right now, which has to be the lowest implied team total for them in quite some time. And Goddard's been banking on touchdowns this year. He's been excellent. He has 7 touchdowns this year, which, helps him overcome some of the lower reception yardage games he's going to get just because they are, pretty run heavy, and he's got to compete with AJ Brown, Devontae Smith. So this is a spot where just his touchdown upside is a bit lower. He, could obviously still score, but you're going to need that probably for him to hit value here. So a little bit lower. His ECR is tight end 7 right now. I don't have him there. I have your guy Colson Loveland. I have raked ahead of him. I have Theo Johnson, Kyle Pitts. Just too many tight ends I like this week to have him inside my top 10. So he opens the week as my tight end 12.
Yeah, he's another tough projection too because he's really been just maxing out the efficiency. So like I have him tight end 13. I feel like that's too low. So I gotta bump him up a little bit. But his route, what do you have his route rate at?
Oh, it's always like 90, right? I don't even have to look. It's like 88, probably his number.
I think it was down. I think I have it at yeah, it was down a little bit the last game. Now I know they blew him out, but it hasn't been super consistent if you look at it, like his pass snaps played. Like sometimes he'll be as low as 70, sometimes he'll be at 100. So I have a more like 85% route rate, and yeah, with the lower total game, the touchdown, like the multi-touchdown game is not as in play. So yeah, it's a slippery slope. Like he could be a guy that if he doesn't go off, I mean, he would be a candidate for like a maybe not a cardio king, but like a 0 or 1 catch game. I think that's in the range of outcomes.
Yep.
All right. I'm low on Evan Ingram. He is the ECR tight end 15. I mean, I've said this all year. I said this before the year. I just don't think Evan Ingram is going to be a top 15 caliber tight end, even with the talent, because of how Denver plays. And that's come to fruition. I mean, this should have been Evan Ingram's best game, going up against a team with great corners, going up against with one of your top 3 tight ends out, and yet Ingram just disappears. Now they could kind of grease the squeaky wheel a little bit here, but they also got Cortland Sutton to grease, and he only had 1 catch last week. So I just think that in a game where the Broncos could build a lead, they're almost double-digit favorites. You would think lead to less passing. Peyton is unpredictable at times, but just what we've seen, we're halfway through the season now, and Evan Ingram really hasn't seen his route rate tick up above that 70% range. It's just, I don't know what we're hanging our hats on with Evan Ingram at this point to call him, like a fringe tight end 1. Like it's just not really, it just hasn't really been there for him all year. Like when he's had the receptions, still low yardage totals, 1 touchdown on the year, which I think both of us kind of thought might be the case. So yeah, down on Ingram.
Yeah, and he was drafted like the tight end 8 or something ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah, Loveland probably outproduces him after all. After Warren definitely will.
Yeah, Warren is for sure, but again, that's that frozen pond range where people were probably like hanging on to him a bit too long, just because you spend decent draft capital to get a guy in the top 10, and then you should have been dumping him for, Gadsden a few weeks ago. You just get really caught, with your pants down having these like Evan Ingram types from the draft.
Goddard was the guy I was targeting, like in
In
addition
that
to
range.
Warren and Loveland. So like that, there's a lot of situations where people probably didn't even need to drop guys. It was just literally avoid Evan Ingram was probably
Yeah.
the best
Yeah.
best advice. Okay, we need a tight end prop.
Which rookie tight end will score more half PPR points this week? Oronde Gadsden the second or Tyler Warren?
Straight up.
Straight up.
Oronde Gadsden, because he's my tight end 3. And Warren's my tight end. Let's see how much of a split I have.
I have like 0.1.
I have a point, Gadsden a point higher. Again, that's
full
because,
point?
Yep, because I am, number one, he's been, lately, I think he's been more consistent, and the Steelers just can't get their shit together. I mean, I know they had a decent game last week, but Daniel Jones still threw for how many yards?
42? Yeah, something
exactly.
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to roll with Gadsden. I think also because my route projection for Allen is decreasing, might be a little lower than the market. That is kind of helping Gadsden. Whereas with Warren, remember, he didn't play with Pierce and Downs at times this year. So both of those guys been in the lineup at the same time with Pittman's reemergence. Yeah, I think there's just a little bit more competition. It seems crazy because the Chargers have a competition too.
Yeah.
But Gadsden's just he's just kind of taken over as that number 2-ish guy. Really, kind of almost like the number 1. It's just usually they'll be one of the receivers will be number 1, and then Gadsden will be number 2.
And this is all the receivers are healthy. Imagine Ladd misses a game, Keenan misses a game. Quentin, that's what like Brock Bowers' season was like last year, just the perfect storm. So Gadsden is yet to have that happen. He didn't really become a full-time player until a few weeks ago, and just the discourse around Tyler Warren is warranted. Like he was looking like a legit tight end 1 overall candidate, still might be, but if Gadsden was in this role from week 1, he'd be in the mix too. So it's just been cool to see both rookie tight ends, balling out and already top 5 options already.
Yeah, with Gadsden, I mean, what are the chances Gadsden just overtakes Warren for this? Like Gadsden, what are the chances Gadsden finishes as the tight end 1?
Well, that's what I'm saying. He would have odds. It'd be like 20-1, right? I'm not even looking at the points, but he'd be 20-1. He would have to just go bananas, and he'd probably. Well, Tucker Kraft is out for the season, so Tucker Kraft was the tight end too. Ferguson's upside's kind of capped with CD back. So yeah, there's a chance that Gadsden ends up being the tight end 1 overall. But he had
10 right now.
Yeah, and he missed, like, let's say he missed
3 games.
What was it, 3 or 4? 3 games? 4 games? 2 games.
Yeah, weeks until through week 5 he had 76 total receiving yards and no touchdowns through week 5.
But he wasn't
week
playing.
6.
He had that good week 3, and then they went back to the Conklin experiment, and then they scrapped that. So really, he's been playing for 4 weeks now, and he's already the tight end 10. So yeah, if he was doing this from the start of the season, tight end 1 overall upside.
He's got target upside too. 5 targets the last 2 weeks each, like 10 total targets the last 2 weeks, 10 total catches for 145 yards and a tutty, 25 and a half PPR points on 5 targets per game is absurd. So he's either going to regress horribly for us and his managers, or just have a monster second half.
He's going to have a 2 catch for 22-yard game. Every tight end does, except for McBride, right? McBride's maybe the most dud-proof tight end, but
he just doesn't catch touchdowns. But he'll
he's a high 4 guy.
catch balls.
But gets every tight end's going to have a dud. So when that happens, people are going to overreact, I think. But we've yet to see it since he took over. So he's really just a high floor, high ceiling tight end, top 5 option right now.
Yeah, I think the reason McBride is just ultra consistent is because the Cardinals are one of those teams that will not only do they have like cardio king types like Wilson and Zay Jones, but they play a lot of 2 tight end, and the second tight end in those usually gonna be a low target guy, but also a lot of tackle eligible. Those situations are just a lot more consistent because if you remove like one of the eligible receivers on even more pass snaps, and usually the teams that are already like kind of using a lot of extra heavy personnel and blockers, now they're using even more with taking a wide receiver off the field. Like that's McBride's like expected target rate on like a bunch of his routes is like 40%.
Yeah, that's true. So
yeah. That is gonna do it. Gadsden over Warren. That's the prop. Week 10 player projections here on the Fantasy Flex. Pretty chaotic trade deadline here with some guys getting moved, but I think we had a really good breakdown. Don't forget, you could check out fantasylabs.com and the Fantasy Labs app for all of our projections, DFS, tools, models, and more. And use code FLEX20 for $20 off an NFL subscription. We'll be back with our DFS preview tomorrow. Touchdown show on Friday over on the Action Network podcast with our guy Jill Gallant. You can find Sean on X at @the_oddsmaker. I'm at Chris Raybon. We're at those same handles on the free award-winning Action app. Go download it. Until next time, let's get this money.